number one cars that we're seeing problems with right now. Obviously, they're also having issues with the 997 cars up to 2008, which is pretty much the same engine. This is a 3-chain. You can see your IMS in there. It still has the old design. The issue it's having is it has a problem with the vario. This car has been misdiagnosed by another shop, and I think they thought it was a sensor, one of these camshaft sensors, but that's not always the case. And also, if you lock this engine up, when you have a vario problem, unless it's completely failed, the actual timing will line up perfectly. So you can't rule it out just by locking up your engine at TDC, being able to put your lockdown jigs, and because it locks up, you rule out the vario. The vario adjuster wears out. I disassembled it. This is why I have blue. I actually retorqued it back. This vario we're not going to reuse. It has a problem. It's locking up. Another big problem this car has is the lockup that it had with the timing tensioner has completely broken out. There's a pin that actually holds this plunger, and the pin broke off. We found the pin in the sump. They charged this poor fella thousands of dollars, and they did nothing. And it's unfortunate. We see this a lot. That's why customers ship us cars from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 miles away, because they know that when they ship us the vehicle, we're going to do it right. We're going to diagnose it properly, and we're going to fix what's needed. So thousands of dollars later, and this guy is still having problems. Not only did it have a timing problem, it also had timing chain tensioner issue, but a vario problem, which is huge. And if we wouldn't have caught it, he would have kept driving and probably destroyed his car. Another big issue is the solenoids. They will leak externally, and they'll actually push oil through the harness, and then you have your valve lift. Here's the harness from the vario. There's oil inside the harness, and oil will actually push its way with oil pressure through the sensor all the way to the main harness, to the main computer, and take out the main computer if it's left and not addressed. These are the solenoids I'm talking about. Here's your vario, and that's your valve lift. These are the same solenoids that are Mesger turbo cars, G3s, the M97, M96 3-chain cars, Boxsters, Caymans, same stuff. If you have that vehicle, check your connectors frequently, especially if the vehicle is over 8 years old. More than likely, you have oil in the connectors. Now, out of 4 connectors, 3 of them have oil in them. That's how bad this problem is. We see this problem all the time, and I want to just point that out because that's always missed and misdiagnosed. Nobody ever checks for that. 5-chain engines, they have the same issue. Once there's oil in that connector, that solenoid has failed. Even though you don't have a check engine light, it's failed. You need to replace it. Unfortunately, on the 5-chain, you got to remove the valve covers, the adjuster unit, because it's all part of one assembly, and there's a lot of labor involved. So if you do that, you might as well do the cam tensioner rams and stuff like that. But our biggest problem with these is cylinder scoring. It's even worse than pretty much any problem on this car, including the IMS. That goes for M96, 2000, 2001, 99. They don't have as many problems. 2002 and up, most of them we see with cylinder scoring. Here's the cam design on these. It's very similar like on the turbo cars. It's actually pretty cool. There's I'm not going to remove this bushing, but there's actual rings in there, and this is for oil feed for the adjuster. The adjuster will attach here like this. Another problem they have is these bolts back out on the early ones. It's introduced an upgrade bushing style. This actually keeps everything locked in place. These cams are also easy to break. That's why don't attempt this work yourself unless you know what you're doing. If you don't have this adjusted properly in the dowel pin, you're gonna bust your cams. That cam is about $2,000, so yeah, don't do that. Mention one other thing: fuel injectors. Now just replace them. They're terrible. They leak on these cars internally. Sometimes you'll see puff of smoke. That's not always an indication of fuel injector leaking or cylinder wash, but they do leak. Due to ethanol fuels, they should be changed literally every 6-7 years. We're going to install a new IMS solution. Here's our solution kit. It's the flange. We have the bushing. See, no ball bearings, so you don't have to worry about ever changing this thing again. Once it's done, it's a bargain. If you did have an IMS installed and it's a ball bearing, keep in mind 4 years interval is a must, because any debris contamination with the open design, you will eventually start wearing the bearing and it will take out your engine. So it's not a permanent solution. The solution bearing that I showed you is the permanent way to go, and that's the way and the only way to go. Anything else is just a waste of money, because you're going to be doing it 4 or 5 years down the road. And if you go to sell the car and somebody's done the bearing and it's been 4 years or coming up to 4 years, you have to do it again. So you're really not getting a bargain. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe.